Hey students, in this video I'm going to review how to multiply and divide fractions. So let's start with multiplying fractions. So here's our first example. Let's do 1/2 times 2/3. When we multiply fractions, what we do is we multiply across the top and across the bottom. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6. But then we have to make sure that our answer is in simplest form, that we've reduced the fraction. And that's what we learned or reviewed yesterday in our video. So we ask ourselves, what goes into both 2 and 6? That would be the number 2. So we divide both by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our final simplified answer is 1/3. You could have also done cross-canceling instead of simplifying at the end. If you remember how to do that, feel free to do so. If not, go ahead and just use this method. Let's try another one. Let's do 4/5 times 1/2. So again, we just multiply across. 4 times 1 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. But 4/10 isn't simplified. That is because the number 2 goes evenly into both 4 and 10. So let's divide them both by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so our final simplified answer is 2/5. All right, now let's say I have a whole number. Let's say I had like 2 times 1/3, something like that. Well, what's the difference here? How do I multiply this by a whole number? This one doesn't have a numerator and denominator. Well, we can rewrite it to have a numerator and denominator. Whenever we have a whole number, we can make it a fraction by putting that number over 1. So the number 2, the whole number 2 is represented by 2 over 1, 2 wholes. So we're doing 2 wholes times 1/3. We multiply across the top and bottom. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. We get 2/3. We are not going to be able to simplify it. It is already simplified because the biggest thing that goes into both 2 and 3 is the number 1. And if we divide them by 1, they're just going to stay the same. So our final answer is 2/3. Okay, now let's talk about dividing fractions. So when we divide fractions, we do this special trick that actually turns our division problem into a multiplication problem, which means we can use what we've already learned over on this side. The special trick we use is called keep, change, flip. So I'll show you what that means in our first example. Let's say we had 1/2 times 2/3. Oops, sorry, not times, divided by 2/3. So what we're going to do is we are going to use keep, change, flip. That means we're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're going to keep the 1/2 just the way it is. We are going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And we're going to flip over the second fraction. So instead of 2/3, I'm going to write 3/2, 3 over 2. Now that it's a multiplication problem, I can just solve it the way I did with these 3 problems on the left. So I multiply across. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I have to see if I can simplify. I cannot because there's nothing besides 1 that goes evenly into both 3 and 4. So my final answer is 3/4. Okay, now let's say we have 1/4 time divided by 2/3. Or sorry, divided by 1/2. Let's do that. 1/4 divided by 1/2. So I'm going to keep, change, flip. Keep 1/4 the same. Change to multiplication. Flip the second fraction. So instead of 1 over 2, it is now 2 over 1. Now I'm going to multiply across. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4. I need to see if I can simplify. Yes, I can. The number 2 goes evenly into both 2 and 4. So let's divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our final simplified answer is 1/2. Okay, let's do one more example. This time, let's do one that has a whole number. Let's see how that works in this case. Let's say I had 1/2 divided by 2. Well, in our previous example with a whole number, we learned that we can rewrite a whole number as a fraction by giving it a denominator of 1. So I can rewrite this as 1/2 divided by 2 wholes, 2/1. Notice that I kept it in the same order. In all of these division problems, I've left my fractions or my numbers in the same order. Don't switch them. If you try and change the order, your answer is going to be incorrect. Okay, now that I have 2 fractions, I can keep, change, flip, keep 1/2 the same, change to multiplication, flip the second fraction. So now it is 1/2. 1/2 times 1/2. I multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. And I cannot simplify this anymore because the biggest thing that goes into 1 and 4 is 1. So my final simplified answer is 1/4. So the moral of the story, the main ideas of today's lesson: for multiplying fractions, multiply across the top and bottom. Be sure to simplify. For dividing fractions, keep, change, flip, and then just follow the same steps as multiplication.